Hey, welcome back to the Shiny Things in Quarantine podcast. I'm your host, Lisa Mitchell. In this episode, we are going to be talking about how in the world do you even date during quarantine? I did a TV segment recently on this very topic because the one thing I think that is a big misconception right now for the general population or people who are partnered or married or not in the dating scene themselves is that because we are in quarantine or because we're sheltering at home or because movement is restricted, that people are not trying to connect. And that is completely false. And I'll tell you how I know. I know because I am one of those people who, despite being in quarantine and despite sheltering in home and despite having limited movement and limited access to leaving the house or going to places like we used to, I'm still interested in connecting. And I think if quarantine has taught us one thing, it's that connection is important. People need to be connected. People need frequent contact and communication. People need physical touch and hugs and affection. And whether that's in a dating environment or whether that's with family members, people like me who don't have a ton of that are really, really, really missing that aspect of normal life right now. So it only goes to make sense that looking to connect, looking to date, albeit totally in a non-traditional way, is something that's very much happening. And it's not just me with this theory. There's actually data from the major dating sites like Bumble and Hinge and Tinder that are showing not only are more people signing up and more people creating profiles, so the pond is potentially getting bigger for those of us in the dating pool, but people are spending more time engaging with the apps. So more time messaging, more time swiping left or right, more time looking for potential matches. And so that's what I think is really interesting about this, is that at a time where you would think people would just be disenchanted or frustrated because you can't date, meet for coffee, go to dinner like you normally would, that people would just give up and phone it in. But that's not what's happening. I can tell you from being on dating apps myself, right now I'm on Tinder, that there are more people and they are more aggressive than ever before. Now, I will preface with this, right? Just because there are more people and they are more active on dating sites right now or dating apps right now does not mean that they are high quality and or actually available to pursue relationships. I have noticed, and it has not just been my experience, but lots of people that I've talked to have noticed that there are a ton of married or partnered people actively on apps right now, actively engaging in conversations, swiping right, matching with people, having conversations, even trying to meet up. There's a ton of married people, a ton of partnered people, and there's a ton of couples. I don't know what about my profile or what setting I've hit or what the hell is going on, but I can tell you that I am seeing a ton of couples come up as profile options. So here's a theory. We are all stuck in our houses right now, right? Which means that married people who usually get the luxury or the challenge, depending on what their relationship looks like normally, of having lots of time away from each other, are now spending an exorbitant amount of time in each other's presence. So any stress, any boredom, any challenge, any disenchantment, I guess any enjoyment maybe that they get from spending that much time together is really, it's exponentially maximized right now. So for better or worse, you're stuck with who you're stuck with. And so my theory is that a lot of these couples are like, all right, maybe we would be flirting with other people if we had the freedom to not be in each other's presence all the time, but we don't. So maybe we together as a couple start flirting with someone or other people. So I don't know. It's just a theory. I would love if any of you guys have insights, or maybe you're part of a couple that are looking to connect with someone else to bring into your relationship, I would love to have a conversation with you. So hit me up in the comments, let me know, or send me an email, and let's get you on the podcast, because I think that would be a really fascinating episode to have. But when it comes to dating and connecting, the messages are pretty much the same at this point, other than the like, how are you doing with quarantine? Or how are you keeping from being bored? Or what do you miss most about your normal routine? Which is all valid and contextually appropriate. It's a good way to kind of see, what are people doing now that they can't distract themselves all the time by going places, or maybe even hanging out with friends or going to events. Like how do you entertain yourself? And as somebody who asks questions for a living, I think that that's a really great question to just get insights into people of how comfortable are they with themselves, how much outside entertainment or stimulus do they require to feel happy? Are they comfortable spending time with themselves, or do they look for distractions? Do they look for escapes? All great insights that you can get from gaining that question. But the questioning is going along that line. Pretty much status quo. Other than that, I haven't really seen anything crazy. But then you get the little feel out questions around like, so, what do you think about meeting up? Or when do you think you would feel comfortable, meeting for coffee or going for dinner? And honestly, the answer is different for everybody. I myself am as anxious as I am to kind of reacclimate and get back to my old routine. I also really value my health and the health of other people around me. And so I want to be just smart about when I start putting myself back in public environments or crowded environments. And I don't know when that will be, but as of now, I'm opting to stay put, except for the kind of essential things that I need to do. So with that said, like how do you date right now? Like, what does that look like? A couple of ideas, if any of you are looking to maybe give it a try, or if you're just curious. There are a lot of people that are doing FaceTime dates. So FaceTime first dates are really, really popular, or Zoom first dates, whatever your technology platform is that you prefer, have access to. But it's taking it beyond texting when you've shown a mutual interest or even a mutual curiosity, and at least getting in the same virtual space with somebody. And I like this because anybody can be clever when they have 10 minutes to craft a text. I want to know how somebody works, how quick they are on their feet. So I want a phone call. I want a video call. I want to see people live in living color, even if I can't get in the same space with them. So I am a big fan of FaceTime first dates. I've had a couple of them. Zoom dates, haven't really gone that route yet, but that's always an option. And then you can record that and play it back later if you're a complete weirdo who wants to like decode your whole date in slow motion, which, by the way, I'll do for you. If you record a date, I'll code it for you if you're curious. So hit me up on that. I'll let you know how that works. But for most people, it's some sort of video format where they're getting in the same space, whether they're having a cocktail and keeping it kind of a short 10, 15 minute introduction, or they're doing dinner together, whether they're cooking their own food at home, or maybe somebody offers to send food via like Grubhub or Uber Eats or one of the other delivery services that we have, or carry out services, and sharing a meal together. So much like you would if you were sitting in a restaurant in each other's physical space, enjoying your company, you're doing it just digitally. So from a communication standpoint, that's a little bit challenging because you don't get the full kind of span of control to see how are people using their space, how are they using their body positioning, do they feel comfortable or maybe a little reserved or uncomfortable in the situation. You're only really kind of seeing from like upper torso up in a lot of cases, but you do get to see how they gesture, you get to see how they use their facial expressions, you get to see some of their mannerisms and how they react, and all of the things that you would hope to kind of gain from, I guess, a data point standpoint if you were making it sound really clinical on a first date or the first time you go out to dinner with somebody. So it's a good alternative. Another thing people are doing right now is they're watching shows together or watching movies together. Like Netflix has an option where you can watch with someone else or watch with a group of people and have commentary and kind of all watch the show or the movie at the same time together. Facebook has watch parties, which is kind of similar in concept. So there's all of these really easy to use tech-enabled ways where even if you can't sit in a movie theater together or you aren't sitting beside each other on the couch, you can still enjoy that experience together, still interact, still see the same thing at the same time. So there are definitely some ways to leverage technology and leverage apps and services to create a date-like experience that lets you communicate and connect in that way, even though you have the challenge of not being in the same physical space. I kind of like not having the pressure of being in the same physical space with somebody right away. First of all, like anytime you're dating people, anytime you're in the same space with somebody that you don't really know, I think especially from kind of the female point of view, there's always a question first and foremost of like physical safety. Like, am I safe in this environment? Am I safe in the physical presence of this person? What are their intentions towards me? And I don't know. I don't want to speak for guys and say that they don't have those same concerns. I don't hear it as much from my guy friends that are dating when I talk to them, but I hear it from almost every female friend that I talk to, that physical safety, dropping a pin, letting your safety buddy know who you're with, where the number is, where you're going, when you should be back, like all of that is just standard operating procedure for us. Like anytime I go to meet somebody in person, especially for the first time, there is at least one friend, if not more, that know exactly where I am. They have his information. They have a photo. They have a number. Like if I come up missing, which I hate to even think about, but if I come up missing or something happens, at least we have a primary suspect to hand over to the police. And it's so totally fucked up that we even have to think about that. But anybody who's been on a date, any female that's been on a date anytime recently, like check yourself, because I know I know you've had that same at least thought process, if not actual process that you've executed on, because we just don't know when we're in the same physical space with somebody. So virtual dating through FaceTime or another mechanism, I'm actually okay with it. I feel safer that way right now. The other concern or the other benefit, I guess, is that you don't have the pressure of the physicality up front. Like, I'm the first to admit that I crush hard. I love to be in the presence of somebody that I find extremely attractive. I like making out with people. I like the physicality of being with someone when I'm in a relationship and when I'm dating somebody. But I sometimes, like, if somebody's super attractive to me, I might skip some of the more question asking phase and go right to like make out phase, which, hey, I'm not saying I'm proud of it. I'm being honest with y'all. So this environment just eliminates that. It takes the option of physicality out of it if you're adhering to safe social distancing practices and really remaining kind of sheltering at home. Now, I do know that there are instances, there are people that I know and things I've seen online of people playing real loose and fast with the quarantine recommendations and the 6 feet apart and the safe social distancing. Like, some people are just throwing it out the window and doing what they think they need to do. So I'm not saying that's not an option. Just most people are adhering to the situation that we're in right now with the quarantine and with the COVID risk, and are trying to be a little bit smarter. So there's lots of creative ways. People are having like rooftop FaceTime dates, or they're like each sitting in a park separately and having a picnic together. Like, there's lots of really cute and endearing ways. I think what I really appreciate most about this time is that it takes a little bit more effort and a little bit more thoughtfulness, which is cool, because normally you can phone it in and meet for a coffee at a Starbucks, or, you know, go grab a bite to eat somewhere close. You don't have to do a lot of prep. It doesn't require a lot of thoughtfulness. You don't really have to be creative about creating the experience. You just get to kind of show up. This is creating an opportunity to be a little more thoughtful, a little bit more innovative in the experience that you're creating. And I think it gives you a chance to kind of show each other a little bit more about what you're intrinsically and inherently about, or what's important to you, or what you enjoy, versus what would be easy if it was business as usual. So that's how it's happening. I can't speak for everybody. I'm speaking from my experience and the research I've done and the people that I've talked to see how they're doing it. So I would love to hear what you've done to get creative when you're trying to date or trying to form connections with new people or navigating dating apps during this quarantine situation. So drop it in comments, send me an email, lisa@powerbodylanguage.com. You can find me everywhere. I am on Instagram and TikTok at Lisa Mitchell Indy, INDY. Email lisa@powerbodylanguage.com. If you want me to give you some advice, send me your questions. I'd love to do a couple episodes of Q&A or live coaching and just kind of move through this stuff together. So let me know. I want to know about your shiny things in quarantine and see how you are doing this. In the meantime, stay safe, stay socially distanced, stay creative, and I'll talk to you next time.